and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man whose passport is a CONCACAF champion. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, my passport is a CONCACAF champion?
Your nationality is now a CONCACAF champion, thanks to the US women's national team.
I genuinely pictured like an adorable little talking passport of like, I'm a champion.
You just wrap a little medal,
Yeah.
drape a medal over your passport.
Yeah, Passy the passport.
Passy the passport.
Of course.
Good for the possession game.
That's how it works.
We're off to a strong start. we are here.
Strong is a word.
Sort of.
Yeah.
All right, we are here to review the US women's national team's 2-0 win over Canada in the CONCACAF Championship final, and also England's 3-2 away win over Spain in the UEFA Nations League. The latter game happened on Monday. The former game happened tonight,
Yeah, it did.
Wednesday, on all kinds of Fox channels. Thanks to the baseball.
I did enjoy Daryl would not stop calling it the baseball. Wouldn't say any teams in particular. Wouldn't say anything about the sport in particular other than adding an article to the beginning of it every time.
It's also, the baseball is 3 words.
That makes sense.
When I say it.
I like it. You really should add an S to ball just to really make
The
it
baseballs?
even more. Yeah, the baseballs was on. Then you're really doing it.
Well, the soccer was on. US women's national team got their first proper test, with all due respect to the other teams, of the CONCACAF Championship against Canada. And in my opinion, they passed with flying colours. 2-0. Goals in the second minute and the 88th or 89th minute.
Yeah.
And a lot of possession in between.
Yep, and I believe with that result, they did not concede a goal the entire tournament.
Yes.
So that's 5 games, 450 minutes, thereabouts. Decent work there for
A
the
similar
US
number of
national
goals
team.
as well.
Yeah.
So, okay.
450 minutes, 450 goals.
Yeah. Why was the US so dominant in this game? Or why did we... I never really felt nervous watching it. I never felt like it was a possibility. I mean, obviously scoring in the first 2 minutes helps.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and genuinely speaking, that's not like sarcasm or anything like that. It's just that, if you're Canada, you have to imagine they're set up with especially given how strong the United States have looked, you have to believe they're set up with a defensive, let's sit back, let's frustrate, let's counterattack, let's be physical. We saw that very often in the first half. And I think you can do all that.
Chapman versus Heath.
Yeah, that happened about 14 times, with both getting yellows, I think.
Eventually.
But I think for all of that, if you concede in the second minute from a great shot from distance, it kind of, that whole plan goes out the window. And we really did see Canada change it up a few different times in this game. But at that point, you're always chasing and you're always adjusting to what the opposition is doing.
Well, maybe actually this is a weird way to do it, but let's talk about what we think Canada were trying to do. And then what the US did to counteract it, at least in the first half. Because the famous Mike Tyson quote, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. And that Rose Lavelle goal was like a punch in the mouth, right?
It really was.
Yeah.
And I think if I were to give my best approximation of what Canada were trying to do, I think they were theoretically roughly in a 4-4-2.
Yes.
With, I think, Sinclair more often dropping in and sort of trying to link the transition into attack.
That confused me, but I think it's maybe my ignorance of Christine Sinclair. So the two strikers were Schmidt and Sinclair.
Yeah.
And I would have just assumed that Sinclair's more like the target, so she should be higher. But she came deeper. Yeah.
I mean, she's the captain. She's definitely the most known name on that team. I have to believe that corresponds with not just being very good in the air and scoring goals, but being very good with the ball at her feet. She did seem like the player for Canada who was most comfortable with the ball at her feet and one or two or three American defenders at her back or around her.
So it was about finding the ball at her feet, and she maybe can hold some people off, maybe make a turn, and maybe start spreading the play from there.
Yeah, and the few times that Canada were either able to play out of the U.S.'s pressure or sort of have some sort of sustained possession in the first half, they didn't have much of it, but the times they did, it was Sinclair centrally directing play, linking play, spreading the ball, passing and moving, and creating, I think a lot of times, something from nothing by dropping in there. So I think that was what they were going for.
Would you agree that they were trying to play like possession, or not possession, but trying to play out from the back in a short passing kind of way? All right. So, I mean, I saw moments of that. I was very impressed with, say, Jessie Fleming. I think she is a player who's, very good at like quick little moves and making some space and making some 1-2s happen. And even though there were moments of being impressed with players like Fleming, with players like Sinclair, the US still really shut it down. So my question for you is, how did they do that?
Number one is that they played very fast, the U.S. women did. I mean, it was another game where we saw them go back to what worked against Mexico. Not to say that they ever abandoned it, but it stands out in my head from what Laura Coots tweeted about how that she heard them saying like 3-touch at different occasions. Yeah. And it felt like that tonight. Where it was,
when the U.S. had the ball?
Yeah, when the U.S. had the ball, it was a lot of quick passing and a lot of movement off the ball. I would say the only time, similar to the Mexico game, the only time that started to break down was in and around the 18, where it felt like there were some opportunities when maybe a few more passes would have been the better alternative than either a shot from a tight angle or a cross to the back post or something like that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it felt like it was the U.S. moving the ball very fast, but then also when they didn't have the ball, being very aggressive in how they pressed and causing a lot of problems to Canada that way as well.
To me, it's almost impressive that Canada ever managed to pass the ball out of the back, but only because there's so much evidence of the US press just being unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I think we found the trigger, right? The trigger, we think, you spotted it, so I want to give you credit for it. The trigger seemed to be any backwards pass.
Yep.
Morgan goes, Heath goes, Rapinoe goes. The three midfielders behind, which would have been Ertz, Haran and Lavelle, they would all join, and I think the fullbacks would also come up. Like as soon as Canada played the ball backwards, woof. Yep. US are all over them.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for how difficult that actually is, because it's not just like as soon as the ball goes backwards, Alex Morgan goes and then somebody else goes. It really was automatic. It happens straight from kickoff in the second half that Canada moved the ball around like from kickoff. Not just saying that from kickoff they pass it back and everybody goes running forward, but they pass it back to the midfielders. The midfielder drops it back to the center back, and as soon as that happens, the US is forward and everybody is aggressive. And it takes
very synchronized, right? It looked like they were almost on a string together, and a flip was switched, and like everything just all goes forward.
But that's what it has to be. Because as soon as 4 go and the other 6 don't, there's a gap that can be exploited. And Canada have the ability.
Fleming would love to play in that gap.
Exactly. I mean, and Christine Sinclair can find that space as well. So it felt like the U.S. did a very good job of making sure all that press happened at that same time, especially because what that ended up doing was forcing Canada into kicking it long. But because the U.S. has pressed everybody up, now they like the Canadian attackers can't really stretch because otherwise they're going to be offside. So it essentially means that the United States was routinely winning the ball back right around midfield, which I'll go with an American football analogy. Like if you can force the team into punting and you're always getting possession around midfield, you're 50 yards closer to the end zone than if you're getting it at your own goal line or something like that.
I actually understood that.
Yeah, so as soon as the U.S. is
I've been watching the CFL.
That's the way to do it. I think their field dimensions are a little bit different, but it still works.
That's why I like it.
Yeah. So either the U.S. would put them under pressure and get the ball right back, like within 30 yards of Canada's goal, or Canada would clear it, and the United States would pick the ball up at midfield and then go at Canada, who were then in a state of transition.
And to stick on Canada for a second, they tried to mix it up in the second half they essentially turned the 4-4-2 into a 4-2-4.
Yep. And made it compact at the same time, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? I think Leon came on, and I think they tried to force the ball down the wings a bit more because they thought maybe US fullbacks are coming forward. Still didn't really work.
It didn't. And I think one thing that I noticed, especially in the first 10 minutes or so, is like if Canada took a goal kick and they played it to the right side, you'd see Chapman, the left back, really sprinting across to be at most like 30 yards away from the ball, and it felt like Canada's approach was we're going to crowd everybody on one side and we're going to make it really hard for the U.S.'s press to work because we'll have all the bodies there. But it worked in that regard, but it also didn't really lead to many, if any at all, attacking opportunities for Canada. It felt more so like it was a good defensive approach to get bodies around the ball, so if you concede possession, you can then challenge to win it back.
Yeah.
But that just makes things a little more chaotic than it does slow them down.
It felt a little more like stopping the bleeding than an actual tactical switch that could really go at the US, right? Because not least, if you get really tight and you're Canada, you then can't switch the ball out of pressure, which they weren't able to do.
Yeah, and so...
And they went wing-backs later on as well, like back three and send wing-backs forward, but still they didn't really create anything.
And I think the wing-backs thing is especially interesting to me because what that means is that I think they were very much trying to play down the channels to make the U.S. spread out a little bit and to focus on the fact that the three-player midfield that the United States had was very central. And if you can play down the channels, you force them into spreading out, and then you nullify some of that press. But I don't think they were able to do that very well with that 4-2-4. It necessitated another change to wingbacks to have even more players out wide. And even then, that's later in the game when the U.S. is already kind of feeling dominant.
And just to get really simple, isn't it that essentially you had a 4-4-2 against a 4-3-3?
Yeah.
And the US not only had quality in midfield, they also had extra players all the time. So part of it is that if Lavelle and Haran were challenging, a lot of times you would see they would do some hassling, and then Ertz would sort of just come. I would say charging through, just come gliding through and take the ball, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think the numerical superiority in the middle is definitely a part of it. But I also think, again, to go back to like it looked like they were on a string, that everybody moved at the same time. Mm-hmm. If everybody believes in the system and executes the system, it is strangely the case that it kind of doesn't matter where the Canadian players were. And I think that was the other thing, is we didn't see, everybody's man-marked is the weirdest thing to say, but it's, I guess, we've been told before it's the correct thing to say, right? Yeah. But either way.
Laura told us that when she plays women's soccer, everyone says man on.
Yeah.
Not least because it's one fewer syllables.
Yep. There we go. Yeah, that makes sense. But either way, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this particular player. I'm going to pay attention to this particular player. It felt like it was sort of wherever the Canadian players were was immaterial. It was about where the ball was and about where the U.S. players were in relation to that ball and how they pressed. That I think was the biggest thing that caused problems as well. So it wasn't just that Canada couldn't find passes through the middle, but then they had space out wide. It was that they couldn't even get the ball out wide because the U.S. had cut off so many options. All
right. So we talked about what the U.S. did to shut down Canada. Right?
Yeah.
It's like South Park, the movie. And let's talk about the goals. So the early goal from Rose Lavelle, it's obviously a great strike from Rose Lavelle, but can we talk about how it all comes about?
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. So in my memory, doesn't it start with a big old cross-field ball?
I believe it does.
A big diagonal ball? Who plays it?
I believe it's Rose Lavelle.
Rose Lavelle starts it?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. Rose Lavelle plays it wide, and then I believe it's played on to Lindsey Horan.
Yeah, Rapinoe touches it into Lindsey Horan.
And it's a great run from Lindsey Horan, who I feel like is going to have lots of bruises and won't have much in terms of the score sheet that will represent how hard she worked. But she was so heavily involved in so many different sequences of play, including this one. I think both goals, actually, she plays a part. Here, she gets in that line. She rides the challenge. She's able to get a cross in. The cross is somewhat cleared, but not really, because it falls to Rose Lavelle 20 yards from goal. And she does a very good job to like kind of put a foot on it almost to stop it.
On top
she
of
definitely
the ball?
does. Because it's
the arrogance of Rose Lavelle. I love it.
Well, see, it's not. I mean, yes, but it is technically what you have to do in that moment, because the ball is coming down and it's bouncing. And if she lets it bounce, then she's trying to like play it off her shin or her knee.
Yeah.
But if you let it hit the bottom of your cleat and you kind of settle it that way, you kill that ball dead.
Yep.
It's the second touch that I think is the most impressive, because I at first thought it was kill the ball dead with the first touch, shoot with the second. And there's a little tiny touch that just moves that ball rolling, and it adjusts where the ball is so that the Canadian players who are closing, now the ball's moved a tiny bit, but it also opens up a little bit of space. It sends everybody one way. Rose Lavelle then sends it back the other. It's an amazing finish.
It really is, right? It's right in that bottom corner. Keepers at full stretch,
yep.
right?
I mean, again, we've talked about it so many times, but that always makes a goal that much little bit better. That like 5 or 10% better when you see the replay and it's the full stretch goalkeeper and it still goes right past the gloves and into the net.
So you think, oh, you tried everything.
Yep.
And it must have felt so good for the US to score. I'm not sure they're scared of Canada. I'm sure they were looking forward to a competitive game. To do the same thing to Canada that you've been doing to Trinidad and Mexico. Like
everyone.
Score early.
Just say everyone.
Yeah, on the score sheet early.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and then it speaks to, okay, our game plan is working. We're putting them under pressure. We're causing problems. We're getting a goal. But it gives you that confidence, and it makes Canada have to adjust what they're doing and feel like, oh boy. And I think no matter what you do, even if you're the dominant team, even if you're like the best team and you concede in the first 2 minutes, it's going to take you at least 10 or 15 minutes to get out of that shock and out of the damage control mode. And I think even just that alone, it really prevents Canada from getting into any sort of rhythm in the first 20 to 30 minutes as a result.
All right, and then the other goal is right at the other end of the timeline.
Yeah.
It's the 89th minute. It's Alex Morgan.
It is.
Who was 100% offside.
She was, as was Julie Ertz behind her, who then... I enjoyed her emphatic celebration of like a little hop and circle hop. It was
like
good.
One fist pump in the air and a hopping in a circle.
It sure was.
Celebration.
It was pretty terrific.
It was the circle hop of someone who knows, oh, that's it. That wins the game. That seals it.
It pretty much was. Morgan definitely offside, and it was, again, a good ball from Lindsey Horan into Alex Morgan that leads to this goal. But I would say the assist...
Oh, Morgan gets the assist there?
Horan does.
Horan does,
yeah. But I think it's Crystal Dunn's assist for the assist, the MLS assist. That's the most impressive to me.
NWSL assist?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, do they do those stats?
I don't know.
There you go.
Secondary assist is what we all call it now, right? So, it's corner kick, comes in, it's kind of cleared out. Crystal Dunn takes it at the top of the box. I believe she chests it. And she shapes like she's either going towards goal or central in some way. But then she puts like a disguised outside of the foot, almost sidewinder strike at the ball to play it out to Lindsay Horan.
Yeah.
Perfectly weighted, which means she definitely knew what she was doing.
Oh, yeah,
right?
100%.
It's basically a no-look pass in many ways because there's a lot of misdirection on it.
A no-look volleyed pass at that. Yeah.
And really good stuff.
And it completely threw off the entire Canadian defense. And I would say maybe even like threw off the AR. And that's why Morgan wasn't flagged for offside, because she, again, to reiterate, is very, very clearly offside.
Have we not missed someone? Or?
No. I looked. I was like, maybe this is one of those weird scenarios where it comes off somebody, or maybe like there was a defender laying in the goal. Nope. That was not the case.
Okay, was there anything that... So we're thinking ahead to the World Cup, 2019 Women's World Cup. US obviously just like rolled through the opponents they expected to beat. Then 2-0 against Canada and looking very dominant. Is there anything that worried you at all? Or anything where you look at it and think, oh, I don't know if like this is a thing we need to fix for next year? Because I was expecting to have something, and I don't really think I do.
Not really. The only two things I'll say are two things that, I mean this sincerely, I was thinking about them, and then you articulated them, and I was like, all right, so we're on the same page. These are concerns. One of them is Julie Ertz. What happens if she gets injured? This is more a question of ignorance, because I can't claim to have watched every single U.S. Women's Friendly. Right. I'm sure other people have played that role, but I don't know if anyone can play it as well as she does, she being Julie Ertz.
She was unstoppable in defensive midfield.
I mean, and she got a few big hits in this game, and there were moments when it looked like she was staying down, and I did then wonder, like, ooh, who do you bring in to sort of occupy that space or play that role if nobody else can?
So let's own our ignorance. If you're listening to this and you know more about the US Women's National Team depth chart, please maybe tweet us. Let us know who replaces Julie Ertz if Julie Ertz is unavailable at the World Cup.
But Julie Ertz started every game, right? I mean, she was one of the players who started that second
Ertz,
game.
And I want to say Dahlkemper are the two that played every single game. Yeah.
And Dahlkemper is my other question mark, and that was another one that we discussed a little bit during the game, is what happens when Tierna Davidson comes back.
Oh, yes. So not because Dahlkemper did anything wrong, but maybe because she did everything right.
Exactly.
Right? So defensively, not a foot wrong that I saw.
Yeah.
And we were both very impressed with Dahlkemper's big diagonal balls out of the back and arrow-like diagonal crosses. When she serves a ball in, like say it's a free kick from deep or from wide, it's got this really nice, like straight but low but scary angle to it. Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, her delivery is outstanding. And I think I said to you, this won't make much sense, but when you've got that ball coming in as low and like
a Rory Delap throw-in.
Yeah. No, that's a very good example. Thank you. Is that a Rory Delap throw-in is difficult to get on the end of if you're the opposition or the attack or the defense, because it's got that low trajectory. It's driven in, and you're sort of, if you're in the space, then you're in the space and you can attack it. But it's not that lofted throw where you can run and adjust and move 15 yards to get on the end of it. And so I think, though, that even with that being the case, if you're a defender, it gives you that much less time to figure out, oh, that ball's coming across, I need to be here, then I can win that header. Whereas if you're an attacker, you kind of know she's going to drive this one to the back post or she's going to drive this one to the near post, and you can make that run roughly. Yeah. And I think it really favors the U.S. in terms of getting set-piece chances.
But then also Tierna Davidson, whenever we've seen Tierna Davidson next to Becky Sauerbrunn, who we just assume is irreplaceable, undroppable, etc., has impressed us as well. So it's a good selection problem, but it's still, Jill Ellis is going to have to make a choice, right?
Yeah. I mean, and so those are the two question marks I have. And then I guess the only other one would just be like, I think we came into this one expecting it to be a really tough contest for the U.S. I think in a lot of ways it was, specifically physically. But I would still say that, like, I don't think I ever saw a moment when I was like, oh, Crystal Dunn has made a very solid defensive play. And I don't mean that critically of Crystal Dunn. I just mean that I still have question marks anytime you've got a player who should be an attacker or an attacking winger is suddenly playing fullback because you want to get your talent on the field.
You want to see it tested against France or Germany, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the only other thing I would say is just that the United States, I don't know if they weren't challenged, or I don't know if they were just that good. Things can be two things, obviously, but maybe that's the only other thing, because aside from that, I mean, I thought that midfield three that we've already talked about looked incredibly solid. I thought the attack was very potent. It was a very varied attack, if that makes sense, that sometimes it was Rapinoe and Tobin Heath doing stepovers and taking people on. Sometimes it was quick combination passes. Sometimes it was crosses. Sometimes it was shots from distance. It felt like a lethal array of options that Canada really struggled to deal with.
I like it. All right, so congrats to the US women's national team, CONCACAF Championship champions. Congrats to Passy, the passport. It's far more approachable than Gunny from the Cooligans.
Yeah.
Passy, the passport's going to France.
Yeah. Yes.
Gunny would be stopped at immigration.
Yep. So, yes, he would. Passy's going. The US women's national team is going. Canada's going. Jamaica's going.
Jamaica's going.
Won a penalty shootout.
Yeah. We haven't seen it. We just heard in the commentary, right, that they beat Panama 2-2
after
in
extra time.
90 minutes in extra time.
4-2 in penalties.
Yeah, so well done to Jamaica. I assume their first Women's World Cup, right? Yeah.
I would assume so as well. Hooray, CONCACAF.
Hooray, CONCACAF. All right, so we've got the Spain-England game to talk about. But first, a great performance from the US women's national team. Don't look at me like that. Today's show
I would be audibly booing you if this weren't an advertisement.
Today's show is sponsored by Greats.com.
That's
Brooklyn's first sneaker company. These sneakers are made in Italy by expert shoemakers. I am not wearing my Greats right now because we played soccer this evening.
I think we were both wearing them last night, though, so that balances out.
Yeah, we were looking good last night. We're looking less good today because we're not wearing our Greats.
We're looking sweaty and tired, and in a few cases bruised.
It's as if we went up against Chapman.
Yeah, I will say, I apologize for doing this in the middle of the ad, but we did finish our game, came straight here, watched the game, and I did not get up from this chair for the entirety of the game, and then I stood up and was like, oh, I'm old. I'm so sore. Everything hurts.
So we thought today would be a good time to mention that when we do the Greats.com ad, the Greats ad, we always talk about the men's shoes because we have men feet. But also, there's an entire Greats women's selection. So honestly, it's the first time I've properly looked at the women's selection. Perfect for the US women's national team. There's a Royale Gold.
All right.
So the Royale is like one of the classic Greats shapes, right? The shape of the shoe. It is gold. I assume it's not actually made of gold, but it is gold coloured. It is the footwear of champions. That's what it looks like. Yeah.
I feel like we could see a few different US players rocking those, the gold shoes, and I think I wouldn't mind it.
I would love for the whole team to get gold after the CONCACAF Championship.
I think Joe Grove should go out and buy every player on that team a pair, using his own personal account and not the TSS one.
Can I get an advance on my TSS?
You cannot.
Payments? No.
Then it's not generous, Daryl.
Well, if anyone else would like to shop at Greats, obviously shop the men's collection, but shop the women's collection, take a look. Any shoes that you find at Greats.com, if you like the look of them and you think, that price, I wish it was 15% less, use the discount code. Use the discount code TSS. You will get 15% off at Greats.com.
And the first member of the U.S. women's national team to actually send us her shoe size, we will send her a pair of Greats.
Really?
Yes, I will do that.
From your money?
Sure, why not?
Maybe Greats will cover it as a promotional consideration.
I'm down. I'm down.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, all right. Or maybe it's just the first member of the women's national team to send us a tweet or something saying, I want a pair of Greats. We'll do it that way. We'll go from there.
So once again, it's Greats.com. The discount code is TSS for 15% off. And the email address is contact@totalsoccershow.com.
There we go.
All right. Another great thing.
I'm just saying, you tell me you don't want to buy Megan Rapinoe a pair of shoes? Come on.
I guess not. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it'd be good.
I would happily buy her the gold ones. She deserves them. She is a champion several times over, I believe.
Harry Kane also literally has a golden boot.
All right.
So let's
I was wondering what it was going to be. I was like, literally a champion many times over? Not sure about that one.
Spain versus England in the UEFA Nations League, which is, I'm going to declare a success already, because it now features England going to Seville, I believe, and beating Spain 3-2. 3-0 at halftime.
And 3 words for you, my friend.
Yeah.
Smash and apostrophe grab.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with this, though. I just want to underline this, right? Obviously, I'm an England fan, so I get carried away with this stuff a little bit. But famously, England do not beat other big nations when points are on the line.
I mean, you could have just said period, but that would have been fine.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, even at the World Cup, it was Sweden that we beat. It was Colombia.
Without James.
Which is Colombia without James. But there's still, any time England faces Spain, Germany,
USA,
Italy, we'll find out in November.
I mean, I'm just saying what happened last time we played each other.
Argentina, England tends to lose, right? So to go away to Spain in the Nations League and win after losing at home,
I guess we drew each other last time, but I take your point,
is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge for England. So I want to talk about how we did that.
I'll say this: we didn't even really plan on watching this live because
I won't
speak for you, but yes, that was part of it. That I believe began that show with a rather unpleasant introduction. But I think it was also that neither one of us really had high expectations for this game, to the point where I think we finished recording and there was like 6 minutes left, and I came back in like, Daryl, you guys are beating Spain. Like, it was very much
I'll be honest,
has happened Twilight Zone sort of
Here's
thing.
what I did. We were recording, I can't remember, we were doing a USA Peru. And it
Something
was the
more important,
preview,
certainly.
and it was the only block of time where we could record, because, we both have other things going on. Was the same time as the England game. So I kind of just resigned myself to, all right, we're doing that preview, and I'm going to go back and watch this on ESPN Plus later. So that's I did a good job of keeping it out of my head, and then I got all the good news at the end.
I feel like I can gauge how excited Daryl is by a result by how little he responds to my shots at England, and you haven't responded to any of them so far, which I think is indicative of the fact that you're very happy with this result.
I'm Luke Cage over here. I'm Luke Cage. Yeah, but I really do want to talk about how England did this. For example, England did not do this.
You're a little more Jarvis than Luke Cage,
but
sure.
Who?
Jarvis.
I don't know who that is.
I think he becomes Vision, but more so just like
Paul
Bettany's voice.
No. Although I did sound like him when I just said that. How did England go to Spain and be 3-0 up by half-time? Because it was not by having the ball, right? But they definitely were doing something that worked.
I think a big part of it was having Harry Kane play a lights-out game. That certainly didn't hurt. But I think it really was maybe almost a rope-a-dope thing of they let Spain get close on a few occasions, but it felt like it was never Spain getting close the way they wanted. It was the way that England was comfortable with them, which was crowding the midfield, not letting Spain really have any time on the ball, to the extent that the first one comes from Thiago shooting from 25 yards out.
Second goal comes from
Excuse me,
yeah.
but that is a good example in my mind of what England wanted, which was Spain not being able to play through, not having any tiki-taka combinations. We saw Luis Enrique getting very frustrated on occasion with the fact that Spain didn't have a lot of passing, and I feel like another aspect of that was England sitting back and having the very compact defense.
4-5-1, right, is how they played.
There was a lot of times when it felt like Spain's kind of attack crashed on that and then stopped. And then you'd have
it was like the Rock of Gibraltar.
Beautiful. You'd have 3 or 4 players kind of standing across that back line, but there wasn't a lot of then sprinting back to open up space. It felt sort of like frustrated, hey, play me the ball. Oh, you didn't play the ball, so I'm going to wait here.
Yeah.
And it felt like England were more than happy to have that be the case, and then more than happy to let players shoot from distance, because that even if you hit a Rose Lavelle-esque shot, chances are you won't hit that shot. You'll instead shoot the ball wide or shoot the ball right into Pickford's hands.
So it's actually the second goal you're thinking of, but let's start there, because I think it's maybe the most emblematic of what happened, right? So it's exactly what you talked about. Spain can't quite create a chance. Thiago shoots from distance. It's not a good shot because Pickford just catches it, right? And then Pickford looks upfield, bangs it long, and it's Harry Kane versus Ramos and Nacho.
Yeah.
Harry Kane comes away from that scrap with the ball. Sergio Busquets comes over to try and help, and Kane does that great Harry Kane thing where he just keeps touching and turning, and he basically turns in a big circle, right? And by the time he's turned in a circle, Marcus Rashford has come from deep left mid, where he was part of the 4-5-1, left side. He crashes beyond Johnny Otto, Wolves fullback, who's beat for pace, basically, and Kane spots the gap, plays Rashford in, Rashford scores. Smash, comma, and grab. Right?
I would say they mined that gap,
I don't think you need the comma, actually.
They
just
minded that gap.
They minded that
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And they mined that gap in the sense that, like, M-I-N-E-D, because they got a goal out of it. But it reminded me, I'm not saying this was like a similar sequence or that it like was anything they learned from them, but it reminded me of the goals that Leicester would get from Jamie Vardy when Leicester were defending a corner the year that they won the title. And Vardy would always go all the way to like where the touchline and like the halfway line met, and he would stand there.
Yeah, it's at the Vardy spot, right?
Yeah, and the idea was that if Kasper Schmeichel would catch that ball, he kind of catches it, continues the momentum, and punts it to the opposite side, and then Jamie Vardy can sprint kind of laterally down the midfield until that ball's played, and then he's in. And
is that what Kane did, though? He didn't start wide, right?
No, that's what I'm saying, is that it's not like, it wasn't like Kane started wide and then sprinted in, but it just reminded me of that sort of like, we know exactly what we're going to do. We're looking for Harry Kane long because Spain have overcommitted numbers in the way that attacks would against Leicester, so now it's going to be Harry Kane isolated against maybe 1, maybe 2 defenders, but we back him to at least cause problems, and in this situation, that's exactly what he does. And it really was, I say that only because we couldn't find the reverse angle that showed the ball like in Pickford's hands and what Kane did to then have that ball come from Pickford. But it just felt like it was so automatic of catch the ball, punt that ball long, and
so you're
suddenly
saying
Harry Kane's there.
Essentially, similar to what we said about the US women, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows the plan.
Exactly.
So it can just happen quickly
Yep.
when everybody knows it's time for it to happen. And that is exactly how that second goal came
Precisely.
Marcus Rashford gets to finish as well after his couple of whiffs against Croatia.
Yeah.
The other two goals are Raheem Sterling. But weirdly, the thing I'm most excited about, I think, in the first goal is Harry Kane's role again.
Of course you are.
I am starting to love the Harry Kane thing of what he does far outside the box, where he almost comes deep and receives the ball, turns and sprays it wide. That's what he does here. So I think he sprays it to Rashford. Rashford plays it into Sterling, and Sterling is there. But again, it was like Kane, Rashford, Sterling, really fast. Spain were almost like, what just happened?
Yep.
What is this?
Yeah, and I
England
think,
do this now.
And I think it's also the case that Harry Kane is your Golden Boot winner, and he is that player that a lot of people know, that English player that a lot of people know, that English goal threat that a lot of people know. And so I think you're going to see defenses focus on him and want to keep a lot of attention on him. And if he's just kind of standing up top, being the target striker, then you can put a center back on him, and it's easy.
Yep.
But if you are stretching the defense on a counterattack, but then he's dropping in, but then suddenly he's wide, but then he's linking up and doing
That's
a 1-2.
Right. He's done both. Right?
It's the variety of attack. Yeah.
So he's gone deep and stretched them on the second goal, and he's come short. And I don't know if a centre back comes with him or not, but at least made it difficult for them on this first goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think it's to the extent that I think with the first goal, like I think the defense doesn't even know that Raheem Sterling has made that run because they're so preoccupied with Harry Kane and the work that he's doing that suddenly Raheem Sterling is then, and Marcos Alonso is waving for offside as he did for I think every single goal. Yeah. But it's because I think they're all just suddenly like, oh, he's there? Well, he must be offside because we didn't even know he was there, but they didn't know he was there because they're so focused on Harry Kane.
And you think about it's a confusing movement, right? The centre forward comes deep and then the wingers go long. It's suddenly your defense has to be like, wait, do we go? Which way do we go? And you end up picking the ball out of the back of the net.
Yeah, off of a phenomenal finish from Raheem Sterling. And I want to say that as well because Raheem Sterling gets so much grief. Do you think it's safe to say that he gets the most grief of anybody in the England team?
Yes. I mean, first from the racist press.
Yep.
And then later, just from general England fans who were just frustrated that Sterling was one of the two strikers at the World Cup and just could not score.
Yeah. And I would say even... I don't think I mean this is disrespect, but maybe a little disrespect, whatever. I would also say that like Liverpool fans do not like him, obviously. Man United fans do not like him. I would say Arsenal...
playing for Liverpool and Man City.
Yeah, exactly. Arsenal, Chelsea fans don't really care about him. Probably don't like him that much, at least when he's playing for Man City.
Yeah. I was saying like he doesn't have a constituency.
Because I would say Man City fans, like they get a lot of stick for being the ones who leave if they go down. Or like our friend went and bought a ticket to Man City versus Bayern Munich in the Champions League the day of because tickets were available. Like, and so I do think there's also he doesn't have that like hardcore fanatical fan base that will always back him, and I think that also plays into it a little bit, that he doesn't have that place where he can go where it's suddenly the cop is around him and everything is fine, and the Klopp is around him and everything is fine.
The cop and the Klopp. So another thing in the first goal I want to talk about is Jordan Pickford's role.
Yep.
And the England defence passing their way not through pressure, but at least around pressure. So England didn't have a lot of possession, but they still, when they had the ball at the back, they did that thing that is new under Southgate of not panicking, not kicking it long, just keep working the ball. And if you have to go back to Pickford, even then it's not just boot it long, Pickford. I'm pretty confident with this ball. Pickford essentially chips it into midfield, into Harry Kane's feet.
I would say he Dahlkempers it into midfield.
Oh!
That's what I would say.
It's a great verb, yes.
I mean, that's what it is. It's a driven...
Yeah, chip's wrong because it's faster.
It's a driven, direct ball to but low and to feet. That's the thing, is that to me it's not... Because he does shape like he's just going to boom it like out towards the sideline. Maybe it goes out of bounds, but whatever. At least we haven't conceded possession like in our own 18.
Some disguise on it in there as well.
Yeah, but then instead he hits it low and driven and central to feet. And I think that alone tells me, it was a disguised pass, but he is looking to play that ball the whole time.
All right, can we talk about the third goal then?
I suppose we should.
One of the men involved in the third goal, it's a group we haven't talked about. It's the central midfield. Central midfielder, because Jordan Henderson was suspended. John Stones also suspended. Ross Barkley, Eric Dyer, and Harry Winks. That was your starting midfield. That did not fill me with confidence when I heard that.
I imagine not.
but it looked really good. Like, Winks was really clever and cute on the ball, kept things moving. Eric Dyer was tough. He slid through Sergio Ramos.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, I feel like this is the one clip that everyone's seen from this game, is Dyer just putting a nasty slide tackle in on Ramos.
I can't remember
it's definitely a foul, but
I can't remember the original tweet that I saw, but it was something like Eric Dyer with like a pointless challenge or something like that. And I think it was George Qureshi quote tweeted it, and with the caption of, "I'm pretty sure the point was clear."
Well, George is right though, because it wasn't about winning the ball.
No,
even if you
it's about tackling Sergio Ramos.
It's about saying to Sergio Ramos, "Hey, we're not scared of you. We're coming for you."
Oh yeah,
I mean, I think that represents the new confidence of England and the kind of meanness of England in many ways.
You will get no arguments from me, but I think with that in mind, there's also that little bit of like, we're World Cup semi-finalists. We'll be Ross Barkley and chip the ball perfectly over the top to Harry Kane, because that's how this third goal comes about. It is an amazing ball from Ross Barkley that is timed perfectly. So once again, we have Marcos Alonso with the hand in the air because he is sure that Harry Kane is offside, even though he's not.
That's how you know you've hit a good pass, as if Alonso appeals for offside incorrectly.
And as we've established previously, Marcos Alonso is a time traveler. He looks like he's from the 70s. He looks like he should be playing in the 70s, so he's clearly come here with a teleport machine or a time travel machine. So he should know he's not offside. He's seen the future. But in this case, he still is fooled by that good of a pass from Ross Barkley.
And then Harry Kane meets this, I want to say, sliding first time on the volley and plays a beautiful cushioned square pass.
With the instep.
Which we take to mean the inside of your foot. Yeah, fair.
Where the 3 stripes would be if you're wearing Adidas.
There you go. Other shoes are available.
They are, but I think I'm wearing Nikes right now, and the check is on like the heel.
Okay.
For some reason.
Squares it perfectly to Raheem Sterling for what's basically a tap-in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautifully worked goal from England, though.
Which we saw Marcus Rashford miss against Croatia. So it still takes a little bit of skill to finish that one. Yeah, and it's a good goal, but it really is. It's Harry Kane, first of all, running through with his hand in the air, like definitely wants that ball.
He's asking that for that ball for a long time, isn't he?
He is, but I think if Ross Barkley plays it when Harry Kane is first calling for it, it then has to almost be a through ball like on the ground, like trying to kind of pass it through into Harry Kane's path, and I don't know if that comes off.
He'd run out of space pretty fast, right? So it'd be Harry Kane hitting the end line.
Exactly. So instead, I think just holding it a little bit and then doing the like scoop chip over the top is the perfect decision from Ross Barkley, and it's incredibly impressive.
And I feel like after that pass, Ross Barkley was reminding everyone, see, told you I was good.
A little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mauricio Sarri agrees. He's playing me sometimes.
Yeah, I think Kim McCauley on Twitter was talking about that. Like, I did not see this coming from Ross Barkley, but here we are.
I'm very happy to see it, because I really thought it was going to be one of those careers that that went very wrong.
In a slightly similar vein, and this has changed like far less recently, but Joe Gomez is one who maybe a couple years ago I didn't see being a very important player for England, and I do think we saw that not this evening, but the last game, where there was a couple times.
He's the John Stones replacement in this game.
But there's a couple times, to go back to your point about Rose Lavelle, like I saw Joe Gomez put his foot on the ball and just kind of kill it dead, stop for a minute, look around, and then on one of those occasions, he plays a 30-yard pass that splits 2 Spanish players and I think is into the feet of Harry Winks maybe, but either way, it was just that like, oh, Joe Gomez can do that. Like your replacement center back, because of who he plays for and how they play, he's able to like calmly slot that ball through traffic and not really worry about it in a way that I think England teams of old, your center backs wouldn't want to do that. They would not want to take that risk and play that ball.
And that's exactly it. And Southgate's talked a lot. I'm going to repeat it just so everybody knows about how you have to have this attribute now if you're going to play centre back for England. You've got to be able to pass the ball out the back, right? Yep. So John Stones, Harry Maguire, Joe Gomez, all these guys can play, right? It's just not enough to be Chris Smalling. Like, genuinely, that's the go-to example, right? Is he says, I'm not selecting him anymore because he can't pass the ball out the back as well as everybody else.
Yeah, it's more so my reaction is that felt like a very like barbed attack, and then it was just sort of like, oh, no, that's just accurate.
That's
just accurate.
Based on a Gareth Southgate quote.
Yeah, pretty much. Chris.
And here's the big.
Chrissy.
I'm going to move on so you don't get too sad. The big thing that's happened with England is they're able to have these ball-playing centre backs now in a back 4, which means instead of the back 5 that was there before. You can have the extra forward. This is the big, the evolution, the big jump for England is to go from the 5-3-2, and we play a bit of possession and we try and play, but we've got a lot of safety, to, all right, now we're filling ourselves a little bit. It's going to be 4-3-3. I mean, it's not as simple as this, but you basically remove a centre-back and add an extra attacker. And now instead of having just Kane and Sterling next to each other, or Kane and Rashford next to each other, now you're causing Spain all kinds of problems because it's Kane in the middle and then Sterling and Rashford either side.
Yeah.
Right? That's the big leap forward for England.
And again, it's also the case that it's variety. That if a team sets up to play against a back five and suddenly you're in a back four, then they have to adjust what they're doing. If they set up to play against a back four and then England switched to a back five, you have to adjust again. So I think it was a thing that I think you were justifiably and correctly concerned about, of England playing the exact same system over and over and over again. Eventually that's easy to play against. Or what had been the case is it's easy to play in if you're England, but that also means that you're never really attacking that often. And so to have this other weapon, this other asset, I think it must be a very exciting time to be an England fan.
And to be a UEFA Nations League fan.
There you go.
Because this win puts England 2 points behind Spain, but I researched this, the tiebreaker is head-to-head, right? So England lost 2-1 at home, beat Spain 3-2 away. As you go down the tiebreakers, eventually the tiebreaker, if you're level on head-to-head results, level on goals scored, it's away goals scored.
Yep.
Spain scored 2 away when they beat us at Wembley. England scored 3 away in Seville. So now England need to just catch Spain, those 2 points. They can win the Nations League group. I really thought we were looking at being relegated before this game, because I kind of assumed we might lose to Spain. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Now that's Germany's problem in their group.
There you go. I did see a thing today before we came into the studio, before we went to play our game, rather. That was, I think, Gibraltar have picked up more games or more points in the last four days than Germany have in the last 4 games.
Right? Yeah, they won 2 games, right? Gibraltar.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
There you go. Mighty Gibraltar. That's the second Gibraltar reference on today's show.
They're taking over.
That seems like it's time to end.
All right. Shall we wrap up today's show? We will, of course, be back tomorrow, which from our perspective, probably not yours.
It's today.
It's Thursday.
Yeah.
With a listener question show. Lots of listener questions to answer.
Do you think we'll ever record in daylight again, or is it just always going to be in the middle of the night?
No, I actually think it's international break when there's a lot of US games late at night is how we end up on this backward schedule.
You didn't answer my question. Will we be in the daylight tomorrow?
Yes, we will. We'll record in the daylight tomorrow.
I feel like you dodged that one.
I promise.
Okay.
And just so people can plan ahead, we are taking Friday off. We're rewarding ourselves for all these late nights with a day off on Friday.
We are indeed.
But we've already chosen the questions for tomorrow. But if you would like to ask us questions for the future, it's totalsoccershow.com/questions. Taylor, I've got something to tell you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.